It is Wednesday, my dudes, which means it's time for another First Thoughts and Initial Impressions Epic 7 video. This one will be on Estelle, the character I was most excited to see out of the Epic 7 New Era patch. As with all my First Thoughts and Initial Impressions videos, I'll give you my 2 cents on the character. Do I think Estelle is good? What types of gear and artifacts would I play her on? Where would I use her? All of those types of things you've come to expect from me in a First Thoughts and Initial Impressions videos. Without any further ado, let's take a look now at Estelle's hilarious S3 animation.
It's my turn, right? Got a good feeling today. Back off! Or else... Was I too harsh? I love the smell of grass. I wonder what'll happen today.
That poor Monopoly, man. He's gonna lose his hat so many times while this character is actually in play. Yeah, like I said, really, really hilarious S3 animation. I don't really know how they came up with that one, but hey, it's really cool. I mean, it's got an axe kick. It has to be cool, right? Anyways, in the English dub of Epic 7, Estelle is voiced by none other than Emily Sun, who most of you may know as the voice of Clara from Honkai Star Rail. Moving on to Estelle's stats, she is an Earth Knight of the Sagittarius zodiac symbol, which means she shares a stat line with Ambitious Tywin, Dragon Bride Senya, Fallen Cecilia, Yulha, and the collab hero Albedo. Taking a closer look at her stats, she has 894 attack, 694 defense, 6,840 health, 104 base speed, 15% critical hit chance, 150% critical hit damage, and no starting effectiveness or effect resistance. This translates to actually pretty good defense and HP, but it comes at the cost of having slightly lower than average speed and, of course, no starting effectiveness or effect resistance. Taking a closer look at her imprints, she has effect resistance for the team, and health percentage is her self-imprint, which is perfect for a character that wants to be a frontliner or a main tank for a team. As always, let's break down the character's kit one time before we talk about her in detail so that way we're all on the same page. Starting with Estelle's Skill 2 passive Protective Nature. At the start of the first battle, gains 50 Fighting Spirit. Grants 30 to 40% damage sharing based on skill level from the damage received by the ally. After an ally except for the caster is attacked, when the damage suffered is 20% or more of max health, dispels all debuffs from the caster and counter attacks. Cannot be triggered by extra attacks or counter attacks. Estelle's Skill 3 is Dazzling Strike. You acquire 50 Fighting Spirit and 2 Souls upon use, and it has a 3 to 4 turn cooldown depending on skill level. Attacks the enemy with a shield, inflicting up to 20% injuries and recovering health of the caster. Penetrates the target's defense by 50%. A successful attack always results in a critical hit. Amount recovered and damage dealt increase proportional to the caster's max health. Soulburn effect for the cost of 10 souls. Skill cooldown is decreased by 2 turns, meaning that you can spam it every other turn. And finally, the move you're going to be countering with all the time, Estelle's basic attack, Shield Strike. You acquire 25 Fighting Spirit upon use. Attacks the enemy, inflicting up to 10% injuries and recovering the caster's health. A successful attack always results in a critical hit. Amount recovered and damage dealt increase proportional to the caster's max health. When it's not the caster's turn, the damage dealt and injuries it inflicts are doubled. After attacking, when Fighting Spirit is full, consumes all Fighting Spirit to activate Wind of Protection. Wind of Protection acquires 10 souls upon use and is a non-attack skill. Grants a barrier proportional to the caster's max health to all allies for 2 turns and increases the combat readiness of the caster by 35%. Now that you know the kit, let's talk about the character. Estelle was my favorite character that was shown during the New Era showcase. Many of you know that I really love the super energetic go-get-em type of characters. After all, Sarmia is my favorite character in Epic 7. You may or may not also know that I'm a big fan of the brawler types. You know, those characters that use their fists or unconventional weapons or martial arts to disarm their opponents. One of my favorite designs in Chaos Zero Nightmare is Magna, a cheerful personality that will beat the ever-loving tar out of you with her bare fists. So to see a cute bruiser archetype during the showcase with Estelle, I knew I was going to really, really like this character. I did not, however, have Sagittarius Knight on my bingo card. And I certainly was not expecting this character to have main tank potential. Let's get the obvious out of the way now. Protective Nature having built-in 40% damage share on historically one of the best tank stat lines in all of Epic 7 means that this character has insane options when it comes to build paths. Since you don't need Aureus, you can basically go nuts in the artifact slot. You can play her on Adamant Shield, turning her into effectively Crimson Armament and making it super difficult to kill her team. You can play her on Elbrus Ritual Sword, meaning if anyone is attacked that isn't her, they're probably getting punched in the face, which has very obviously strong combos with things like Bossa. You can play Holy Sack, giving her a second life and letting her live the tank dream just a little longer. You could play her on Crown of Glory and not have to sacrifice your damage mitigation in your single target scenarios. You could also play her rate up artifact, which is called With a Little Friend. This increases the user's max health by 5 to 10% based on artifact level, and also decreases the damage received from damage sharing effects by 25 to 50% based on artifact level. This artifact, at first glance, feels like her best in slot option, and also the best in slot option for Unbound Knight Arwell. And if your goal is to make them live as long as possible and be super tanky, then yeah, this is an absolute slam dunk, incredible artifact. But do not discount the versatility of other tank artifacts. I've seen people say that this artifact is just busted, the best thing ever, why would you play anything else? No, there are still going to be times where Elbrus or 3F might be the better option. If you want to play this artifact, I don't fault you though. I think it is absolutely worth picking up 2 copies of it, and is one of the strongest knight artifacts that we've gotten in a very long time. In addition to the damage share, Protective Nature also has a built-in counter mechanism, as well as cleanse if someone other than her takes more than 20% of their max health in a hit. Note the wording on the dispel here. It's dispel, then counter. Meaning if Estelle is stunned, she'll snap out of it and bash you in the face if you're not careful. The skill 2 alone makes this character worth the pickup in my opinion. If you've been paying attention to the current state of the ladder, a lot of the best tanks over the past year, like Imperial Ilynav, aren't really doing so hot. Right now, Unbound Knight Arwell is on the rise as the best tank in the game thanks to the new 40% damage share from Escort and the fact that her skill 3 allows you to play a bit more proactive and disruptive. Ilynav for the last year or so has been playing full tank with no real damage, and you're starting to see her win rate dwindle as a result. I don't know if tanks can be really passive in modern E7, otherwise you lose to the powerful high tempo drafts. As a result, a lot of the higher ranked Ilynavs that I've seen have been switching back to the hybrid Imperial Ilynav, where they use a crit chance necklace instead of health percentage. They still use protection set and Aria Shore, but those chunky 8 to 10k S3s from the 100% crit chance that they have help bolster a low tempo draft's offensive firepower. You're trading bulk for some damage so that way you don't get run over, since you're basically low threat out of the gate. I bring all of this up because Estelle's design feels like it's done in such a way that the designers are aware that most traditional tanks in Epic 7 are quite bad right now. And I'm specifically talking about Aureus Knights here. Don't yell at me in the comment section saying things like, oh, but Sue, it's a turn 2 meta right now. And that may be true, but that's more because of Biblis and Scales, not because Aureus Knights are good. Aureus Knights either don't do their job and get run over, or they help stabilize, but they don't do anything to try to progress the game. Estelle's design feels like it's a total rebuttal to that. A real tank design with actual damage share that has built-in counters that are guaranteed to hurt thanks to guaranteed crit chance. Slap on a skill 3 that has injury to put you over the top of other turn 2 teams, and defense pen to kill the squishies without sacrificing any main tank abilities, and that's a recipe for an amazing character. Don't forget the Soul Burn allows you to spam it every other turn, which could absolutely turn the tide of a fight, so pairing her with mages that have souls at the start of the battle, or even warriors on Thorn of the Blue Rose, seems like quite a strong thing to do. Finally, we come to the skill 1, and this is probably the most overloaded skill 1 I've actually seen in ages. We used to talk about how Imperial Ilynav had one of the most broken S1s on a tank ever. Built-in lifesteal, built-in injury, built-in pop damage on the Soul Burn. That's insane. Now look at Shield Strike by comparison. Built-in injuries, built-in lifesteal, built-in critical hit chance, also built-in barrier for the team, built-in CR push, also generates 10 souls consistently. Ilynav would kill for those souls to spam her Soul Burn, and also the guaranteed crit. And I think that's the difference maker here. Yes, Ilynav has that busted passive, but Estelle's kit just does way more out of the gate for turn 2 players. Putting her behind Boss Arunca on Elber's Ritual Sword will generate an obscene amount of value from her counters. So many souls for your free run, tons of free barriers, and a whole lot of turn cycling. Putting her in the front slot with Monarch of the Sword Assyria also feels like it's just going to give you a boatload of value. And even if your opponent wants to stop all of these counter shenanigans by bringing Mort, she could just injure him down, and her damage share ensures that she still does her job even without her counters. Like with Albedo though, you do have to be careful of Lionheart Sirmia because it's super easy for your opponent to game your passive and trigger it manually to get tons of value. Hey, I'll at least take that as a win. Sirmia stonks, am I right? As for how I build Estelle, it's actually quite a bit complicated. Since she always crits and is a tank regardless of what set she's on, there's a very real possibility that destruction is the play, since you get by far the most amount of stats out of it. You could just stack all HP and take the free 60% crit damage and let that do a bunch of heavy lifting for you. There's also a protection set to further cement her ability to protect the team, and then finally you have counter set if you want to maximize the chances that you'll counter, especially if you get focus fired by players who are trying to avoid activating Estelle's passive. I don't really think you could go wrong with any of these 4P sets, and I think which one you go for is going to be your own personal preference. As for 2P sets, immunity is probably my first choice as we're kind of swinging back into a metagame where it's dangerous to not have immunity turn 1. Still, the typical tank down offsets do work here, things like health set, defense set, and resist. And if you want to go for damage, even penetration might be alright. Overall, I expect Estelle to stand alongside of Arwell as the best damage mitigation knight in Epic 7 for PvP going forward. While she lacks the game warping passives of many of the game's limited and ML 5-star characters, it's hard to look at this kit and not think that she's going to make a big splash. 40% damage share that can only be stopped via seal. Built-in Elber's Ritual Sword. Built-in cleanse. Generates barriers constantly for the team. Generates a boatload of souls for the team. Has built-in damage, even if you don't build any damage whatsoever. Estelle just feels like a real winner to me. A clear shift in design that suggests that the design team is aware that the way tanks work in Epic 7 currently aren't doing their job, and they're also not really fun to play with or against. Estelle feels like a rebuttal to the old school way of designing things. I'll definitely be pulling for her. And those are my thoughts on Estelle. But now I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Estelle? Let me know down in the comments section below. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.